Good morning, grade nines. We are 2.5 weeks into the final term of 2020, and so there's only 7.5 weeks to go, and that's going to go super quick. This Friday, you've got a student-free day. Monday's a long weekend. Next week's the athletics carnival on Wednesday and Thursday. Backup day being Friday if it's raining, one of the previous days. There's school basketball on Thursday afternoons. There's SLB camp, week 6. So there's heaps going on. And as you know, this term goes super quickly. So again, make it count. What I'll do is go through quick reminders and points for improve and then jump onto some positives at the end. So reminders about gum. People seem to be doing a lot better. The go is the teachers should, certainly the teachers on the grade 9 team at the start of each lesson will remind you to put the gum in the bin. If you're still chewing it, then you can book in and help out the cleaners, clean it off tables and stuff like that in a lunchtime. Hoodies, no change. So well done to the people who, after months literally of prompting, have been in school uniform. Really appreciate that. Looks so much better. Phones, for some of you who are becoming consistent, you know, offenders with phones. With a couple of students, what we've done is they've had to bring their phones and leave them in the office to be secured during the day. You know the rules with that as well. Some people still act really surprised when they get in trouble. I just can't get over that. So make sure you do the right thing with phones. If you keep getting caught with it, then we'll just lock it up in the office each day and you can get it at the end of school. All right, a couple of more interesting points as well. As you guys are grade 9 now, you're sort of turning 15 this year. You're getting close to being young adults, and a big part of being an adult is having the humility to take responsibility and to be accountable when we stuff up. And so I'm starting to get annoyed with a few students who always seem to think they're hard done by and being picked on, and seem somewhat surprised when they're getting in trouble for doing the wrong thing that they've been told about over and over again. You know, you're old enough now to take responsibility. It goes a long way when you've done the wrong thing if you can just humble yourself, put your hand up and say, yep, that was me. I know it was wrong. I'm really sorry. I shouldn't have done it. Here's what I'm going to do to fix it. Okay, don't act surprised. Don't try and shift and deflect blame to someone else for your mistake. Take responsibility, take it on the chest, learn from it, and let's move on. Embarrassingly for me, I've had teachers come up and say, can you mention about language, swearing with the grade nines next time you have an assembly? Now, to put it in perspective, I was listening to a teacher the other day and they were saying, hey, to be honest, I swear a lot in my own time. I don't have the best language, but he said, in a classroom environment, I'm super professional. I make the choice to speak professionally and speak respectfully in front of and to my students and to other staff. And so what he was saying was it's a choice. You're able to switch it on, switch it off. What you do in your own time, in your own privacy, not in front of others, how you choose to communicate is up to you. But in a school environment, language communicates respect. And by swearing, you're not respecting yourself, nor are you respecting other people around you. For some people, they don't care what swear words they hear. For others, some of the words can be particularly offensive. And then for most of us, I think we just recognize that swearing isn't always the best way to communicate. It doesn't sound professional, it doesn't sound good. And for those that have a problem with swearing, it's very obvious when people are talking in a sentence and every second or third word is a swear word. It just doesn't sound good. So I want to challenge some of you out there to think about your language. I've had several teachers come up to me about this and say that in class and in the yard, uh, some students, their language is disgusting and it's disgraceful. So if that's you, I want to challenge you on that. I think you do have control over it. You do make the choice of how you communicate. Some of you need to make a choice to communicate far better, far more politely, and far more respectfully. The other one here, particularly for the boys at the moment, you might have heard this term before, toxic masculinity. And when I heard this term initially, I actually reacted against it because growing up, the way my dad modeled things to me and the group of boys that I hung out with from primary school at Summerdale through to Prospect High School, through to Launceston College, through to university and onwards, the sort of dudes I hang out with are good guys and they treat women respectfully. The way they talk to them, the way they act around them, the way they talk about them, So I never really liked the term toxic masculinity. But then I started to look a bit beyond and I realized, hey, not everyone is like my dad and a good role model. Not everyone is like the lads that I grew up with and hang out with. There are some guys out there who treat women appallingly and speak about them, speak to them in terrible ways. And even when you talk to a lot of police officers, one of the number one call outs they have is to do with domestic violence. Sometimes, often male, female, sometimes female, male, but there's a bad culture with some young men in how they respect women. And that has been a complaint. Teachers have come up to me and said, we need to talk to some of our young men about their respect towards females. And so, gents, I want to challenge you out there and where are you at with that at the moment? If you're doing a good thing at the moment, keep doing it. A healthy gender stereotype, I think, is that men treat women respectfully. They are gentlemen, they are polite, they are protectors. I think that's a healthy stereotype for men to aspire to. And if some of you have been in class shooting your mouth off, saying degrading, misogynistic, sexist things, if you've spoken poorly about females in general, either directly to them or about them, I want to call you out on that behavior because in no way is that acceptable or all right. It makes girls feel uncomfortable. It makes girls feel unsafe. And I just wonder for some of you, if you think about a female who's important in your life, whether it's a mum, a sister, an auntie, a friend, would you really be happy if some of your mates were talking about them or talking to them in the same way that some of you have obviously been talking about women and females? So I want to call out that behavior. It's never been okay. It never will be okay. Some of you really need to be challenged on that. Think about it. What have you been saying? Has it been respectful? Has it been polite? Has it made people feel safe? Is it okay? And if you have got crosses against all those criteria, then maybe you need to reconsider again how you've been communicating, how you've been speaking about people. All right, another quick reminder. A lot of people at this age are starting to get resumes and applications prepped. You're applying for jobs. That is awesome. Super excited for you. But just a quick reminder for so many of you that use social media. I was only sitting in for an army exercise. We worked with the Tasmania Police a couple of weekends ago. And the Tuesday after that activity, I got one of my army reservists who's also a police special operations group sniper and team leader. I got him to do a presentation on police and what it's like in the job and what sort of things he finds interesting. And he was talking about the recruitment process. And he said very interestingly, the way they get rid of most unsuitable police applicants is simply by looking at their social media profile. And again, I've listened to job recruiters before, and they said one of the first things they do is go on people's social media and have a look at them. I've got a friend who said she went for a job recently, and a fairly high performing job. And in her interview, the boss said to her, "We've checked you out. We found this on the internet about you. It looks like you're involved in this, this, and this, and have done that, that, and that. That's really good. That's really positive." And I was like, wow. Imagine if when they Googled or Facebooked you or looked you up on Twitter or Instagram, all they saw was negative or inappropriate images, posts, whatever. Please, guys, consider that carefully. Have a look on your social media profiles. Do you need to do a cleanup of images or posts to make yourself look professional and put forward the best version of yourself? Okay, consider that as well because employers are looking at that these days. Please keep that in mind. All right, they're my things to work on. Okay, moving forward, I just want to give you a bit of a story. This may need to go over 2 tutor group times, but this is pretty cool. Over the holidays, I like to read. I find it relaxing. And I read a book called Gifted Hands by a guy called Ben Carson, and then I followed it up by watching the movie. So, this guy is Ben Carson. He's an African American dude, very interesting background. He grew up with a single mum. She could not read or write. She had barely any money, but she was a great mum, had an awesome heart, and loved Ben and his older brother. But Ben grew up really struggling at school. and he told a story. He remembered when they used to do tests. You were in single desks, you did the test. At the end, you'd hand it your test paper to the desk in front of you or behind you, and that student would mark it. And then the teacher would call out in front of the whole class everyone's name, and you had to give the test score. And one time for him, the test was out of 25. The teacher said, "Ben, what's your score?" And he said, "None." And she said, "Oh, 9, that's really good, well done." And the girl behind him who marked his test sort of snickered and said, "No, miss." He said, "None." He didn't get any right, and the whole class laughed. He was that sort of kid. He really battled academically, but his mum ended up getting him some glasses, and he commented in his book that then he could actually see what was on the board. And then his mum made him, remember, she couldn't read or write. She wasn't strong academically, but she was driven to make sure she set her boys up for success in the future. And at home, she got Ben working on his times tables, basic math stuff. But he said, after I mastered my times tables, guess what? All my other maths started to make sense and my scores improved. His mum did a lot of babysitting and cleaning as a way to make ends meet, and she cleaned for rich and wealthy people, and she observed what they did in their homes and what they did in life to make them successful. And for one of them, one of these wealthy men, his house was stacked with books. And so she came home one night to Ben and his brother and said, "Hey, you're going to cut down on the amount of TV you're watching. You can only watch, 2 programs a week or something. The rest of the time, I want you to read books and I want you to write me a report and give me a report on them." And so he started reading, and he found that with reading, his spelling and his literacy and his understanding of lots of different things around the world got better and better. And then his English work and his other subjects, again, grades improved until he got to the point where he was one of the smartest students in the school. Ben Carson went on to study at a very prestigious, very famous university, became a doctor, and then went on to become a neurosurgeon. And he operated on people's brains, people who were having seizures all the time. He operated on them, very delicate, fine-tuned procedure. And this is why the book was called Gifted Hands, because he realized it was more than just a learnt skill, that he had steady hands, very fine motor skills, and he operated on people's brains. He made them better, and he's done a number of surgeries. I think he was part of the surgical team that did the first separation of conjoined twins or Siamese twins joined at the brain. Okay, so people in the past had separated twins joined at the upper torso, but no one before had separated twins joined at the brain. This is all from a guy who came from a tough background, single mum who couldn't read or write, barely had the means to get by. He had a temper problem. He struggled academically in school. But he's an example of someone who made it count. He made the most of every opportunity. He worked hard, spent hours and hours at home working on things. And then as he worked on stuff, things got better. His grades got better. His understanding got better. And that got him into an awesome university, and that got him into being a doctor and ultimately a neurosurgeon, and the top of his game at that, world-renowned neurosurgeon, now working in the US government. Ben Carson is a guy that we can look up to and we can be encouraged by. If you're thinking, "Hey, I don't have much going for me, I struggle in class, maybe home life isn't great, or my background, I'm not wealthy and rich like others," this guy is one of those guys that made it work. His mother believed in him. She pushed him relentlessly. She encouraged him. She loved him. She grounded him, set him up for success. He met her halfway. He put in the hard work. He put in the effort, and he got there and he succeeded. So when you think, I'm going to leave his picture up on our grade post, just as a reminder for people when they walk in. But when we talk about making it count, Ben Carson made it count. You guys can too. And I hope that encourages you in your final term of grade 9. Have those goals in mind that you want to achieve. Think about your future. Remember, the teachers will do everything they can to set you up for success. You've still got to meet them halfway though. So the challenge is there for you, but make it count. All right, guys, really appreciate your time. Thanks heaps. Have an awesome day. Enjoy the rest of your week and have a fantastic long weekend. All right, cheers. Bye.